we need to understand that this has been a good idea once. This is the first reconciliation. This is why I never say, we don't break patterns. We don't kill beliefs. We don't kill the ego. If somebody tells you that, bullshit. That's not integration. That's splitting yourself. So today we are going to look into beliefs and how we create them, how we imprint ourselves here, what we can do about it, and what it takes to change a belief thoroughly. I just read something gorgeous. Rubin says, the magic is not in the analyzing and in the understanding, but in the not knowing. That is far beyond what we're going on today, because you can only surrender into the not knowing when you have understood. So for the rest of your lives, in case you feel like I need to surrender into nothingness, into not knowing what's going on, that's a very uncomfortable process if you never had any idea what was going on. It's like, you can only give something up that you once had. So if somebody is trying to push you into not knowing, into surrendering into the void and all these things, make sure that you have something to surrender, because otherwise it's a very well, it's not very futile to be clear about that. So before we start to surrender stuff, we'll now go into starting to understand what a belief actually is. And it's a very beautiful topic because it sounds kind of basic, and it is basic, but hardly anybody has any idea how this works. So you might as well question everything or not. That's up to you. I'm just going to give you the gist of what I have understood so far and what other people say about this. So the first thing is, like, what is a belief? A belief is something that is something we would call a fact for our reality. If we believe, we all believe in gravity. That's like a very deep core collective belief. We all believe that bullets kill if they hit your heart. These are collective beliefs. It's still a belief. So if we gather enough momentum collectively in our world that gravity is not existing, it will not exist anymore. That's how strong beliefs are. But we have decided that beliefs are happening on a subconscious level, so we play out these things. But from the quantum physics perspective, everything is just a story you tell yourself. And even physics and quantum physics are questionable. But it's very hard to question gravity if everybody else believes in it, because it's something, the world is created through us, and we walk as the reality that we embody. So we have some core beliefs that are very basic, and it's very hard to change them. Whereas an individual belief, like, I don't know, my nose is not beautiful. I'm saying something here. That's just my belief, if that was true. And everybody else would say, my God, you look so pretty. And I was like, yeah, but I don't like it. La, la, la. That's an individual belief versus gravity, collective belief. So a belief is something that makes our reality, and reality is what we agree on collectively. So reality is not reality if somebody says, but that's a fact. Is it for who? Says who? Say 99% of the people in the world will have a hard time changing that. Not impossible, but you need to go beyond the stage 6.5. Just so you know, for anybody who's familiar with the core. The belief, where is it stored? Super cool question, by the way. It's in the space around the subatomic particles, and that's my answer. Basically, the belief is stored in the in-between. If you have an atom and you have, these little bits flying about around the core, in between is a lot of space. We already know that we are not made of like that. What we feel is mostly space, although it feels like matter. And in between that space is where the vibration is of the emotion, and this is what creates the way the matter is built. So this is where the belief is stored. That's my metaphor for it. I don't have a better question, a better answer for you. It's impossible to have a better answer, because a belief is it's stored in, it's not stored in your DNA, but it influences the matter it's creating. The matter is created from the belief. So every piece of matter is having that belief inside. But if you want to influence it, you need to go in between. So it's possible to feel into that space. And this is where you feel all your beliefs. I don't know how to, it might be a bit frustrating for you guys today because it's all very abstract. But just bear with me. I try to become more concrete. But I don't know what a belief is stored per se. I just know that people who work with beliefs, like Michael Beckwith, Regan Hillier, Tony Robbins, they all, so the belief is stored in between that. That's what they all say. They have different metaphors for it. I just say it's stored in between the subatomic particles. Regan says it's the, she color codes it. What's the color between your subatomic particles? That's what she asks. Beckwith is moving the things around in between there. So a lot of people have the metaphor between that, in the in-between. And the imprint starts in the womb. This is where the belief system is starting to, what's the word? Be created there. So the chemistry of the mother is what actually creates your initial imprint. So you basically take over the belief system of your mother, mostly. The way the father treats the mother has a direct influence on the chemistry of the mother, body chemistry of the mother. So this is how it's co-created. But it is more of the mother in the sense of the baby is in the mother. How else can you do it? Of course. So the DNA comes from both. But the imprint of the mother has a stronger influence. Chemistry of the mom is creating the chemistry of the baby. And that creates the nerves, how it all starts to spin out. So you have your DNA, and that might mean that you have blue eyes or green eyes. But how it spins out, that's already imprint. So the cards you dealt, which genes are being activated, that is body chemistry of the mom, which is influenced by everybody around her. Which means that however your mom felt when she was pregnant had the most influence on how you are today. So if you meet a pregnant woman, treat her kindly. Thank you very much. And of course, the father has an incredibly enormous impact on that, because if the relationship is like a healthy relationship and everybody's happy that they're pregnant, la, 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 totally different than if the relationship is abusive and nobody wants the kid. And usually reality is somewhere in between, because every mother has this moment, oh shit, I'm pregnant. The baby feels that. That creates the first dent in the ego, because it's a body chemistry of doubt. It goes directly into the fetus. This is how the belief system starts. So when we look at that, what can we do? We can't do anything, because this is how we are. We are human. We doubt. We get angry. We are tired. We forget to eat, or at least I do. So this is what we do. This is how we live. So nobody can do it perfectly. There's nobody to blame. This is just life that has an impact on the body chemistry of a mother that creates the first imprint in a baby. So this is how the early beliefs are being created. This is how imprint starts. And the moment you're born, or in the earlier times, you've been pulled up into the light and slapped on the back. Beautiful. Hello. Nowadays, that's not that bad. But still, they take the kid away from the mom. What is the first thing that makes sense for a baby? Sense making. We're here for sense making. The very first thing that ever made sense is the smell of your mother. It sounds like nothing, but this is the time where we're most vulnerable. From the moment we're conceived until we're 18 months old, everything, all the beliefs are imprinted. 90% of your beliefs are there from that time. And then the rest is just a spin out. And then when you get born, until you're the age of 7, you're in alpha state, brainwaves alpha. Anybody who has ever heard of brainwave, there's alpha, beta, theta, gamma. Gamma is the genius frequency we all would love to have when we channel or when we're together in emergence and bright ideas come in. And alpha is the state of a baby or a child or when we're in meditation. This is what we activate. We go into alpha. A child until the age of 7 is in full alpha. What does that mean? That means, it's a very beautiful explanation. We are absorbing everything because you're wide open. So you don't have you can't protect yourself. Everything that happens until your 7th birthday fully goes into your pattern imprint. Mostly until you're 18 months. And then from that spin out, but it's still absorbing. You're like a sponge. You get it, you soak it all up. And you spin it out depending on your first 24 months of being alive, like conception until 18 months-ish. The only thing that you need to do as a child is make sure that you survive by being close to your caregivers, which you have identified via your smell when you were very little, when you were just out of the womb. So until you're like 6 to 12 months, I don't know exactly, 9 months-ish, I think, only your mother is relevant. You do not recognize your father properly. You understand something's moving, but you don't have a deep connection with the person. It's just the mom. And then the father usually, or the second caregiver comes in. Usually the father. Might be a grandmother or a sibling. And then more and more and more and more. And then they accumulate basically. But in that time, because we cannot protect ourselves, we're fully depending on the people to protect us. We're unable to live by ourselves. By the age of 7, we can do that. That's why 7 is such an important age. By the age of 7, we would survive in the wilderness by ourselves. We have enough skill, we have enough brain capacity, and we understand what we need to do to survive. So until we're 7, we need to survive by staying close to our caregivers. And how do we do that? We ensure that they love us, so they don't push us away. How do we ensure that somebody loves us? We copy everything. So the alpha waves make us copy the patterns that make separation feel less. That's the most important line here. So we copy the patterns that make separation feel less until the age of 7. So everything you've done until the age of 7 was only serving one purpose. Make separation feel less. Separation has been imprinted. How? Cutting the umbilical cord. There, that's it. Nothing traumatic about it. Highly traumatic for a baby. That's just nature. It needs to get cut. You need to get your own, you need to be your own individual. And there's no pain in that, but still it's like a shock to the system. It doesn't have to be a shock in a negative sense, but it's like the most fundamental change that we will ever experience in our lives. That's the biggest change. Cut. There. And then for the rest of our lives, we try to get this close to somebody again. Eventually we realize mom is not the solution. Needs to be somebody else. Then we have friends, then we have lovers, and eventually we understand, oh, we kind of need to connect with everything. So if the belief is stored around the subatomic particles and it has been imprinted from your birth, that's why you have such a hard time to get close to your core beliefs. What are the core beliefs? The core beliefs is what make your identity. I am a shy person. I am, whatever you say after the I am. That is your core beliefs. Usually you work on one belief, but the one, if you get down to the core belief, that will be a whole cluster of beliefs that you basically kind of put in a nutshell. The one line, I don't feel worthy enough. Standard core belief of almost everybody. And the question is, I don't feel worthy enough for what? Because then you have it. I don't feel worthy enough to receive unconditional love. I don't feel worthy enough for that job. I don't feel worthy enough for making more money. I don't feel worthy enough for that girl to date me. La, 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 la. That's all the beliefs that can spin out of the I don't feel worthy enough in general. So if you want to work on the worthiness thing, You might take the story, which is, I don't know, I don't feel worthy enough to have more money. And then you can work on that, or you can go to the core belief that you don't feel worthy enough in general, and then you lift all of them. Not a lot of people can do that kind of work, though. And also, not a lot of people want to go that deep immediately, because that's one hell of a trip, but possible. And what you do if you want to lift the belief from the body is, why do we not let go of a belief? Very simple, because the belief has been a really good idea once. Because it made sure that you did not outgrow your parents, that you did not do change, you didn't bother them with a new perspective, you stayed close. So every belief you have has once been a really good idea to survive. It's not bad. It's not stupid. We are so hard on ourselves when it comes to our beliefs. And we need to understand that this has been a good idea once. This is the first reconciliation. This is why I never say, we don't break patterns. We don't kill beliefs. We don't kill the ego. If somebody tells you that, bullshit. That's not integration. That's splitting yourself. You need to find the version of yourself that once believed that this was a good idea. And this little version of you needs to find a new belief that's a better idea. And this is how you integrate a belief. You can only integrate a belief by understanding where it comes from and what it's served for, and then giving that version of yourself a new, better idea, because it will not let go of that belief if it doesn't get a better idea that makes more sense. More sense means more aliveness. And more aliveness means, in that sense, I can still love my parents and my parents can still love me, even though I choose differently. Because I believe that the idea is so good that it's going to inspire them. That is the math that we do in our brains and in your body chemistry. The method of feeding your demons. I call it feeding your monster also. It has been created by a female, what's the word, Buddhist. There's not a lot of them in Tibet, but some. And that lady in the 60s, 70s, I think, created that method for the folks who lived on the fields because they couldn't afford a shrink and they didn't have time to constantly go talk to somebody else. So she created a method for them so they can help themselves, which means you don't have to be smart to do it. You don't have to have a lot of time to do it. You can just do it during the night when you wake up and something's haunting you. That's what I usually do. If I wake up and I'm like, oh, bad dream, or something is horrible, this is what I do. And it's called feeding your demons. I call it feeding your monsters because that works better with kids. It's really good for kids to do that too, but you have to kind of help them a bit with it. First of all, you're trying to locate where the feeling is. So something horrible happens. You have, I don't know, pictures of whatever, something. Come up with your own idea, something that recently really bothered you. And then you locate that in your body. Where is that feeling located? That's a very masculine practice, by the way. Women, very feminine embodied folks, we always say it's everywhere. Yes, because this is how we are built. But still, if it's everywhere, you can still see what color does it have in between your subatomic particles. If you find a location for it, have a location for it. If you feel it's everywhere, give it a color. If you have a location, for example, it sits in my shoulder. Okay, something sitting there. What is it? Give it a shape, give it a color, give it a smell, make it a monster. Make it a creature. Locate it, and then you have to make it concrete. You have to make it a thing, a living and breathing thing, because it's a belief that lives and breathes in you. So you visualize it sitting here. And the more concrete you can actually visualize it, the better. Sometimes it's like it's like a foggy, shady thing over my heart, just like a white fog. I had this. Sometimes it was a bee. Sometimes it was all kinds of childhood stuffed animals gone wrong, basically. The gremlins, stuff like that, you know? Animals from the Muppet Show, something, whatever. So if you have that, you take this thing and you put it in front of you. You externalize it. That's the technical term for it. You externalize that feeling. You put it in front of you. And now, if you do this for the first time, you might actually want to do this with chairs or pillows and really change position when necessary. If you've done this often, you can do it with your eyes closed in your bed lying as an inner process. But as the start, it's really good to kind of change. So you put this in front of you, you look at it and say, you ask it 3 questions. What do you want is the first question. And then you can either visualize the thing telling you, or you can step into it. You change perspective, you go into that piece, and it's totally angry and spitting fire, and you feel that. You need to feel that properly. And you look at yourself standing there, I hate this. Take me away. Whatever comes, stuff will come. Practice it if it doesn't come immediately. Be patient. This is unusual for us to do. We are not used to that kind of work. But talk to it and then be it. What does Ken Wilber say? The integral process is face it, talk to it, be it. This is how you integrate your shadow. And this method is teaching you how to do it by yourself. So you step into that and then you feel all the horror, or you feel the anger, or you watch it, how it's telling you, whatever works better. And you can try both things, but your instinct will tell you the first one is right. Don't question it. Just do whatever is right. And if it doesn't work, then try again, try again, try again. And eventually you might try the other perspective, but you can get lost and stuck in that. If you get lost and stuck in that, ask a friend to help you. As in, can you hold the space for me? Can you stand here and be that? Or can you watch me do it, etc., etc. You can have somebody to help you. But usually it's very simple. You just step into it and feel the upsetness. It's already in you. You felt it earlier. Just do it. And then when that's there, you change perspective again and you ask the thing, not what you want, but what do you need? Very big difference. The first thing, but the want needs to get out because the want is in the way. The want is the ego. The need is the trauma, also the ego, but beyond the anger, beyond the big fear, etc., something, and you will feel something. Step into it again and feel, what do you need? And then you change perspective, and then you give that thing what it needs. Whatever it asks for, you just give it. You visualize. If it needs a hug, you give it a hug. If it needs, I don't know, all kinds of things come up. Sometimes it needs to be listened to. Sometimes it needs to be calmed down. Sometimes it needs you to sit next to it. And you just do that with it and stay with it, and you nourish that. That's why it's called feed your demons, feed your monster. Give the thing what it needs so it can finally let go, and then you watch how it changes. It will change shape. It changes into something beautiful. And unless it's not beautiful, you're not done. Continue feeding it. Ask, and if you feed it and it doesn't change much, say, what else do you need? Maybe something else comes up. Just stay with it. But the want needs to get first, and then the need. And then you feed it until it changes. And once it has changed, you ask another question. How can you help me? There's the resource. How can you help me? And then the thing will tell you, something will come. I can protect you, or I can be at your side when you get scared, or there's the resource. The next question, once you have your answer, is, what can you promise me? That's basically the same question, but with more detail. Because this is where the moment that thing is there, you have good results. And the third question is, how can I find you when I need you? And I think the weirdest thing that ever came up for me there is, you need to drink a glass of milk. Every time you drink a glass of milk, I'm there. I'm lactose intolerant, by the way. and I was like, milk is, well, lactose-free milk was a slightly annoyed answer of that particular goddess, by the way. So, but something will come up, and it all sounds kind of stupid or silly, but it really works. This is how you can integrate your shadow. And the second part is just as important as the first, because in the first part, you free it. You give the imprint a better idea. This is how you change. The belief was, this is horrible and I want la 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 la. And then finally you understand, oh, this is behind it with the need question. And usually this is where you start to cry. I at least always do when I'm there. This is where I break, because I finally understand what I actually needed here. And then when you feed yourself, you give yourself what your caretakers have never given you. You're basically mothering and fathering yourself. This is growing up. So this is how you change a belief. Everybody can do it. It's a beautiful practice. And also, we can do it for each other. I often do it. I do it with kids. I do it with grown-ups. If you work with me, I will do something similar. It's just a very, there's so many more tools I put in there, basically. But it's, face it, talk to it, be it. Ken Wilber. Still the very best idea how to integrate stuff, and you can do it by yourself. And this is the process of reconciling a belief. It's not breaking it. It's not deleting it, because there is a resource in it. If you break it or delete it, then what you do is you have to do the whole test again, because you didn't learn from it. You just dismissed it. You want to get the resource out of that. That's harvesting. That's beautiful.